So we are going to learn about constructors. What is constructors? We call the object initialization. So when we want to create an object, so let's see. Let me make another test point for. So when I want to create an object, I will call the class import point. And then let's say I have the main function. And then I will call the main. So the point one, I would like to make it as an object number one or the instance number one. And then if I want to define the x, let's say x will be 3, and then let's say the y will be 8. So I need to have 3 lines. 1, 2, 3. Or, okay, you say that we can use the set location. So when we use the set location, it means we can just define 3.8, something like this. So the x will be equal to 3 and y will be equal to 8. However, we call this is tedious. Why? Because we need to have more lines to define the value 3 and 8. We can simplify how to create the object with just one statement. So the one statement means we could rather pass the field's initial value as the parameter. So I just want to make those two values as the parameters of the class. So we can make this one with most types of objects. So here is the update. In the point.py, you define x and y is 0, and x is 0 and y is 0. And then I would like to change to use constructor. What does it mean by constructor? So I will change this x and y. I'm not using the x equals to 0. I'm not using a y equals to 0, but I will make the constructor. So the constructor will use def underbar init. Init means initialize. And the first parameter will be self. And so it is always self. And then we have two kinds of parameters, which is about the x and which is about the y. I'm going to use another kind of variable to represent. Let's say this is x and this is y to make it different. And what I'm going to do is to make the object for every object in this class, the x or the value of x will be xx. So xx is from this parameter. And the value of y will be equals to yy. Or this is the value from the parameter. So by using this one, actually it is the same with this x, it is the same with this y, but we can put them in the parameter. So every time we change the value, for example, I'm going to use this one. So if I change this one directly 3,8, then I will have directly 3,8. So I don't need to put the set location. I don't need to define p01.x equal to 3, p01.y equals to 8. I can just use one line to define the value of x and y. We call this is constructor. So we want to initialize the state of new objects. Whenever we have a new objects, it will create a new object based on the defined parameters. So this kind of constructor, it runs when the client use init. The init is the initialize. It does not specify a return type. So we don't need any return type. And it implicitly returns the new object being created. If a class has no constructor, then Python give a default constructor with object parameters. So you can see this one. If there is no init, when we do the first time, when we have the function, when we have the point.py, the original code that I gave to you is without the constructor. If it is without constructor, then Python will make the object as the default from Python. If you have your constructor, then you can make your own object, or you can define the object. Note that it requires self parameters, and for each data members also needs it. In this case, I know that we are going to specify x and y. So when we specify x and y, we need to use self.x, self.y. Okay, now let's see if I use this test point 04. I'm going to create the point, and we have the 2,3. Okay. And then I'm going, okay, let me just use P1, P1, P1. Okay. So I have the P1 as the object, and the X is 2 and the Y is 3. And then I have P2. And P2 is another point. And then I define is 4 and 3. So let me print P2 and P1. So using this one, it is more simple, or your code is more clean. Okay. You can run. So now I know that the P1 is 2,3 and P2 is 4,3. Let's say I want to translate. So P2.translate 3,2 Then I will do the addition. 4 plus 3, 3 plus 2. So everything remains the same. I can also do the measuring the distance. So I have the, if you want to follow the example, you can follow the example, but I can directly call the function p2 dot distance p1. So if you do this p2 dot distance p1, it means I want to measure the distance directly. If I want to measure the distance from the origin, then I can have the p2 dot distance from origin, and this is the result. So everything is the same, but now you have constructor. The constructor means you just define the parameters in the class name. Okay. Now, next question. What if the arguments are plain? What is argument? Yang junior. So I go to the point dot py. I will change this xx. Now it will be equal to 0, and yy it equals to 0. So when I change this xx to 0 and yy to 0, then let me run again this test point 4. So it is blank for the P1 and it is available for the P2. So let me just close this one. Let me have this one. Now you can see that when I have no arguments, the value will be 0 and 0, or this is the default value. But if I give arguments 4, 3, then the value will be based on the given numbers. Okay, that's how we can make the default constructor. Okay, so this is another example. If I define P1 as 0.2, 3, then it will show 2, 3. If I have P2 4, 3, then it will show 4, 3. But if I have no argument, then it will show 0, 0. Okay. We need to learn another concept about this object-oriented. We call it the encapsulation. So the encapsulation means hiding implementation details of an object from its client. So I do not want the client to know what is the data. You know, when you have your user ID, you do not want other people know your user ID. You do not want other people to know your password. So it is the same. When you do with this kind of class or the object oriented, you need to use some encapsulation to hide the implementation detail. So the encapsulation provides abstraction. So it will separate the behavior or the external view from the internal view. And the encapsulation protects the integrity of the object's data. So what we are going to do this one is like this. We want to make the fields or the data members as private. Private. So we do not want to expose. We want to keep it secret. A field can be declared private or no other people can access the data. No code outside the class can access or change it. So in this case, we need to use double bar, double underscore. You have the class point like this. Now, I would like to have the double underbar X and double underbar Y. Let's go to the point .py. Now I will make this as double underbar X and double underbar Y. Okay. Now I'm going to access this one. When you run this, the point has no attribute X. Okay. So we already changed to double underbar X. Now let's see. Can I access double underbar X? Double underbar Y? Double underbar X? Double underbar Y? It mentioned no attribute double underbar X. No attribute double underbar Y. Okay. Why? So we call this is the private. It is secret. So you cannot access the data. No code outside the class can access or change it. Okay. Then how can we access the data? We need to have what we call as the accessor. We need to access the data by giving method. So in the point.py, after I have this one, then I will have a new method. I would like to add the accessor. The accessor means let me get the X. So I want to know the X, so I will just use the parameter self, and then it will return self dot underbar X. If I access the X from other classes, it is not possible, but I can access this variable from its own class. So I can make another also def get Y self and then return self dot underbar double underbar Y. Now let me go to the test point beautiful. Let me delete this one. I have the P1 as point. So I will print P1 And then if I want to get the x, okay, I don't have the x, okay, because I already delete the x and I already changed. Okay, so I already have the x underbar 2, y underbar 2, okay, and I am going to access it by using the function get x and then the function get y. So if I run this, then I will get the value of x is 0. So I'm accessing the x from the instance method. I'm accessing the y from the instance method. So let's say if I have another point, P2 is point and then 3, 4. So I want to get the P2. Okay. If you get the x, yeah, it's not possible. Okay, because it will be error. So I will use the function, the accessor to x, and then I have another function, the accessor of y. Then I will get the result 0, 0, and then 3, 4. Sometimes I need also to define the location, or you can define the x and y. Yeah, we have the set location to define the new x and the new y. You can have your own definition or your own function set x and y. So we have the x and y. It means I want to set a new value for the x and I want to set a new value of y. And the way to set this new value is using the self dot underbar x, which is the current data members, which is available with the xx, and the self of the y will be the same with the yy. So I can change the value of x in this object into the new value which is defined in this argument. Okay, now let's see. I'm going to set P to set xy. I want to change it to 6, 9. Then if I print again, then the new P2 will be x equals to 6 and y equals to 9. So I define the new x and the new y as 6, 9. And yeah, I'm changing the value for it. So you can make other problems. The set location, yeah, you can change this one to the underbar x like this. And then you can change the self underbar double bar y to indicate those two are the data members from the relevant object. And also you can change this one to make every function work with the new data member. This one you need to make with the double bar. You need to make with double underbar in order to fit with the current value in the data members. So we can provide methods to get and or set field values. So in this case, we are going to get the x. Yeah, because this is accessor. and we are going to set. We call this is mutator. Mutate, it means we want to change the value. And you already know how we can get the values and how we can set the new values. At the end, this will be the full class form. So I can make the class diagram. Okay, this is the class diagram. The class diagram, I have the point which is x and y. Okay. So usually we call the data member x and y with this symbol. This symbol. If it is negative, we call it this is private. If we put as positive, we call it public. So if the data should be in the private, then it will be shown with minus. If the data can be shown in public, then you can put plus. So if you look at the previous slide, okay, this one. If you look at this one, it is showing that it uses plus. So it is public. You can access the data members. But if it is minus, we have the agreement that if it is minus, then it is private. So it is not available for public. But for the other functions, we put it plus because you can access from the client. So we have the init. What is init? This is the constructor. We have functions, translate, and it has two arguments. We have set location, we have two arguments. We have translate, yeah, I removed the one of this one. And then I have the distance with other point, it has a written value. And I have the distance from origin. I have the get x, it shows a written value. And then I have the get y, it shows a written value. And then I have another function set xy. So this function represent, this is the function, this is the constructor, this is the set location, this is another translate, this is the distance, and then sorry, this is the distance from origin, this is the get, this is the get y, and then the last one, I think it doesn't show here. Yeah, because it's too long. So you can see that, yeah, it shows the function as well. So it means you know that when you create a class, you can have many instance methods. You can have many instance functions. Okay, so this is the basic one. And for your team project, I hope that you can make one class. Okay, please think how you can make your own class in your team project. So let's say I know one team, they want to make a kind of pizza restaurant, and what is the meaning by object? So maybe one object is one order. There is one customer order, so it will be one object. If there is another customer, the customer number 2, then this is another object. So it depends on your team project. I'm not sure what is your topic, but please think how to create your own class. Okay. And of course, at the end, in the final report, you need to make this class diagram. Okay. So this is the test point to generate the full statement. So here I want to make a P1. P1 is a point of 2 and 3. And then I want to show the X and Y. P2 is 3, 4. I want to show the X, Y. And then I translate it. So I change the value. And then I want to measure the distance, and I want to know the distance from origin. Okay. So we already know the encapsulation. So the encapsulation, it provides the abstraction between object and its client. So we do not want to share the data. So it protects an object from unwanted access by client. For example, if you make a class of bank, when you make a bank application, of course, you do not want to share how much money you have in the account. So you need to put the account balance as private. And this encapsulation, it allows you to change the class implementation. For example, you have the X and Y for the point, but I want to change to another kind of coordinates. We call it polar coordinates. So the X and Y can be changed to R, which is the radius, and then the angle. So we can make another method to put this one into the implementation. And it allows you to constrain object state invariance. It means if I have the points, I want to have only points which is positive or non-negative. Then you can define the conditions. Now, let's see another example. Can you explain this one? So we have the class name. Okay, the class name is here. We have 4 data members. This negative means the data will be in private. Yeah, if you want to make it simple, then you can put it as public. But the symbol means this is private. And we have PMI. So usually when the class name is the same with this function name, so this is the constructor. So usually this one is the constructor. So in the constructor, we have several values: name, age, weight, height. Okay, then it means all the members will be in the constructor. And then we have function get PMI. It means we will do the calculation. We already know how to do the PMI calculation. And get status. So the status means it depends on the PMI. If the PMI is above something, yeah, maybe it is overweight. But if the PMI is in some ranges, then it is normal. Okay. how I can make this class? So I give you the code. For this one, let's just copy and paste. I will copy this one and let me make a new class. I make a new Python file, PMI, and then I paste this one. And then I have another Python file, use PMI class. Then I will make a new Python file, use PMI class. Okay. So in the main function, I have the PMI1. So it will call the class PMY, and then I have the name, I have the age, I have the weight, and I have the height. Weight and then height. Okay. And then yeah, this one is also weight and height. So we can calculate the PMI. So I'm going to get the name and then get the PMI and then get the status. So you can check the get name. What is get name? So you can press the control. Okay, get name, it will get the name of the person. And then get PMI. Okay, you can check the get PMI is the calculation. Last time we already have the calculation. And then the get status is the condition. So it depends on the get PMI, and then if the PMI is less than 18.5, it is underweight, and so on. Okay. So you can see that everything now is under the class. If you want to look at the details of this class, you can see here. So it's height, name, and width. And if you see this one, it shows a kind of it's like lock. Okay. You can see this is lock. It means those data should be in the private. And this is a constructor. And we have functions. So the function is get PMI, get status, get name, get age, get weight, and get. So it follows the structure in the class diagram. It follows the structure here. Even though we have two functions here, we have only two functions, but actually we also need the additional function. We need to have the function get name, get age, get weight, get height. So whenever I give you any problems like this one, you can make your own additional functions if it is necessary. Okay, so the additional thing is only the exercise. So I will stop now.